Stephen Johnson. Last year was his first year covering TCU. What a run it was with what they did. Obviously with football, getting to the championship game, Big 12 championship game, to lose to Kansas State, but got into the game, beat Michigan in between, joins us on 365 Sports. Stephen, thank you very much for your time. We were able to have Sonny Dykes on about 2 weeks ago, but it's been a couple of weeks, so there's probably some new treads on the tires. What has been going on as far as Chandler Morris, Hoover, the quarterback race or competition?
Well, it still remains to be seen how much of a competition this actually is, because in my mind, Chandler has taken every single snap with the ones this spring. So until Hoover starts getting maybe some reps with the ones, I guess I'll refrain from really calling it a competition. But what you've seen from those two quarterbacks, I think, is both of them getting a lot more comfortable with the new offensive team under Kendal, Briles. Last Friday, Hoover had a practice where he threw 3 touchdowns, and then Morris came back the next day on Monday and threw 3 touchdowns of his own. So they're getting more comfortable. I like what I've seen. The offense is asking them to be more mobile. There are a lot more. The quick game has been a bigger emphasis. I think that could really fit the skill set of a guy like Chandler who would like to get the ball out of his hands pretty quickly and distribute the ball. So they look pretty good, I think, as champions progress. I think they feel good about Chandler being the guy, but I do think TCU will probably go into the portal and grab another body just because having 2 scholarship quarterbacks, man, that's playing with fire.
Stephen, how is the offense different from Garrett Riley to now Kendal Briles? Because they're similar, but what have you noticed are the subtle differences, or maybe not so subtle?
Well, I think the biggest thing everybody has said, and the biggest thing you see is just this quick game passing. There'll be a lot more tempo. I want to say TCU was in the middle of the pack last year in terms of offensive plays ran per game. Arkansas was either in the top 10 or they were number 11. So Kendall's going to have the offense playing even faster than they did last year. I think, there'll be a lot more screens. There'll be a lot more drafts, a lot more underneath stuff because the receiver room has changed so much from having those home run hitters like Quentin Johnson, Darius Davis, Tay Barber, to having more shifty, elusive guys like JoJo Earl, Major Everhart, John Paul Richards from Oklahoma State. So that's the biggest difference. And I think you're seeing the quarterback. I know Max Duggan ran a lot last year, but what you're seeing is the pocket is being moved a lot more, seeing a lot more bootlegs, a lot more rollouts. So I think that will be those 2 things, the quick passing game and how much the quarterbacks will be asked to move, even when they're passing the ball. Those have been the 2 biggest things that stood out.
How is the running back room coming along, Stephen?
I like what I've seen from it. Imani Bailey is in a kind of a battle with Alabama transfer Trey Sanders for that starting role. Sanders, of course, 5-star running back. There was some injuries at Alabama. He's kind of looking for a fresh start at TCU. I think right now, man, Sanders is the bigger back, but I think Bailey, who averaged more than 8 yards per carry last year, backing up Kendre Miller and Amari DeMarcado, I think he's going to be the guy. I think he gives them the most pop. I think they'll probably use a committee approach, but I think Bailey could be the guy that could be that lead guy just because of what he can do, his explosiveness as a runner, and I think he's also could be a big threat in the passing game as well, too.
So your thoughts about TCU, the expectations. Last year, everything fell into place. Obviously, they were really, really good. So what are, in your opinions, what you think are the expectations now?
I think right now, if you're TCU, you want to contend and you want to push for another double-digit win season. And, TCU has had quite a few of those over the last couple of decades. So that would be my attitude going into it this season. The Big 12 is still wide open. We know Texas and Oklahoma are looking for bounce-back years, and they'll have the most talented rosters. But TCU brings a lot back. I think they did a great job in the transfer portal. They feel like they have hit on just about all of their transfers. All the transfers they have so far, either from starters or in the 2 deep, that's about all you can really ask for. So I think what TCU has coming back, especially on defense with 7 or 8 starters coming back, they should be one of the top teams in the Big 12 again and contend to get back to the AT&T Stadium for the Big 12 championship game.
Stephen Johnson, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, covers TCU with us on 365 Sports.
One of the things about Max Duggan wasn't just his ability, it was the leadership growth. Do you expect to see the same thing maybe from Chandler Morris and his ability to kind of rally the team around him? Because that was what Max couldn't do before, and then all of a sudden he could do it last year.
Well, I think Chandler had a great opportunity last year. I know it was tough for him because he beat out Max for the job, and there are people around the program that will tell you there are a lot of practice best guy on the team. But, what could you do when a guy gets off to a 12-0 start? So I think last year was probably great for him in terms of just, he had no choice but to grow up. You know what I mean? Not that I think he had immaturity issues or anything like that, but being able to watch Duggan galvanize the team, especially after that Big 12 championship game. I think Chandler, who comes from a football background, I think people have kind of praised his leadership. Imani Bailey actually said a lot of good things about what they've kind of been seeing from him. So I expect him to take that jump. With Chandler, is just going to be about, can he stay healthy through 12 games, through a 12-game season?
Stephen, can you sense them getting that positive rub off of that run last year already in terms of recruiting, in terms of fundraising, all of the different things that can come with success? Is that apparent, or is that still, kind of a work in progress as they, evolve into this following season?
Well, I thought it was apparent with what they were able to kind of do in the transfer portal, grabbing so many guys from the SEC, and a couple of those guys had starting experience as well, too. So I think that was one benefit of it. The last couple of days, they've been hosting up hundreds of kids on campus, including Colin Simmons, 5-star defensive end from Duncanville recently. So I think it's starting to pay off. Their recruiting class for 2024 is off to, I wouldn't even say a slow start. They got their quarterback last week, So I think they're going to start seeing a run on the recruiting trail. So I would say the momentum is up. The momentum is high. They're getting a lot more interest from both guys in the transfer portal and those upcoming high school prospects.
Have you had a chance to visit with Kendal Briles just about what he does as far as his calls and what he's trying to bring to the table? Because it is a little bit different than what Sonny Dykes has done or what Riley did for them.
We got a chance to talk to Kendal briefly during the spring, he had a media opportunity. And his philosophy, which I think is similar to Garrett's, is, hey, man, we're going to do what we're good at. And whatever we shine at, running the ball, passing the ball, that's what we're going to do. He said, hey, we don't really care about, being strong in one and not as good in the other. They want to do what their players are good at. So I think he shares that philosophy with Garrett, But I think, like I said, the tempo is going to be the biggest thing, man. They want to push the tempo. And I think Garrett, which I think should please TCU fans, says, hey, the quick game is going to be a bigger emphasis this year, but we're still going to take plenty of our vertical shots. And you're seeing that a little bit more in the spring. So I think Kendal, his offense is going to be different. Maybe not as much. Hey, once again, it's still coming from the spread. You're still going to see a lot of 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back. So the personnel groupings may look a lot of the same, but I think there will definitely be some differences. You're going to see more and more as they install more and more of the offense.
So what can TCU fans expect, or just those outside observers that maybe want to check out the spring game? Is this going to be, traditional 4 quarters? They doing 2 halves? What's kind of the layout for what Sonny Dykes and crew are looking to accomplish? And what are you looking for as well? I know you've answered a lot of questions. They've answered a lot of questions. But what are you going to have your eyes on in terms of the game?
Well, in terms of format, it'll be more like an open practice, man. I think they're only going to go for maybe an hour, maybe 90 minutes at the most.
Okay.
So there'll be a lot of situational work, red zone offense, 2-minute offense. There will be some situation where they kind of simulate the game and, hey, just start at 20, try to get as far as you can. So there will be some game simulations, but I wouldn't expect, some of the other kind of patches you see with the spring games. I think the biggest thing for TCU, they want to put on a good show, but they want to get out of the spring healthy, man. They had a couple starters go down or couldn't participate, so I think that's going to be the biggest thing for them. And what what I want to see, or what I'm watching for, quarterbacks, of course, and just seeing some of these newer guys who are going to be contributors. This will be their first time having to kind of perform under the lights. We'll see how big the crowd is. So who really shines up? Who steps out, man? The talented receiver and running back, they're all pretty intense, man. So this is going to be kind of that last impression you can make before you kind of take that break and get ready for summer workout.
It's obviously the answer might be, you would think maybe Max Duggan because of what he brought to the table, but they're losing some alphas, and that's what happens when you're good, and you have to replace them. Baylor went through that after 21 with Petrie and Bernard and the safety. I just went blank. All of them were so good. So Quentin Johnson, Travius Hodges, Tomlinson, Avila, Duggan, Kendry Miller, who among those, and I'm missing some, I know, who among those might be missed the most?
I think I will go with either Avila or Quentin Johnson, just because right now there are question marks, I think, an outside receiver for TCU. You like Jordan Hudson, who's going to be a rising sophomore, showed some really good flashes last year. Davion Williams had some really good moments, but neither have had that breakout spring that you wanted to see. So, replacing a potential first-round pick, might be tough to do for the offense this year just because he was so prolific last year. And Avila, man, what can you say? Versatility. He could be one of the first interior offensive linemen drafted in a couple weeks. Kind of just says everything you need to know about him. So I think those two guys, the question mark, the outside receiver, and kind of the interior O-line. They brought in Willis Patrick from Jackson State, who was actually one of the best friends with Avila that grew up in Grand Prairie. He's kind of brought the stability inside, but there's still more question marks, man. So I will go with Steve and Quinn as the guys I think would be the toughest to replace.
Stephen, thank you very much. Stephen Johnson, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, covers TCU.